Fellow St. Lucians, this is Openmike, and we are now coming to the final and fourth segment of our program. Prior to ending the program, we needed to get some further clarification on the John Compton Dam, which is presently in progress. And Vincent is going to highlight that part of it to us. Vince.
Thank you very much. Well, we had in the very early stages indicated to the public that the WASCO and the government of St. Lucia engaged the Caribbean Development Bank in the process. The Caribbean Development Bank has agreed to provide some grant financing as well as bridging finance for the works that are required to be undertaken. And we had to follow a particular process, which is the procurement process, which has to be transparent, because the money that the Caribbean Development Bank gives you would be money coming from various countries around the world, the more advanced countries that are members of the Caribbean Development Bank. And they require a particular process to be followed so that they assure that their money
is well spent
and there is no corruption and nothing like this. Yeah. So this is why a process, and I very often speak of a process, so that the public can understand that we have to follow the process. And that required of us to do what we call an EOI, which is an expression of interest. And we had to advertise for this, and we got 13 expressions of interest. 13 different firms showed an interest in what is happening at the John Compton Dam. We did an evaluation of the 13 firms, and only 5 of them were selected. Now, out of the 5 that were selected, we had to issue them proposals, requests for proposals, meaning that we had to ask them to submit proposals to us along the lines of some terms of reference. So the 5 of them were invited to do so. Only 3 actually accepted the invitation, and we got proposals from 3 firms. Those proposals have since been opened, and they have been evaluated. Now the process is first you evaluate the technical proposal, and then that evaluation is supposed to make a decision about which proposal is ranked first, second, third, and down the road like this. And you also must have a qualifying mark. So if your qualifying mark is 70%, it means that only the firms above 70% will qualify. Those below, you forget about them. For this particular project, the qualifying mark was pretty high because of its complexity. It was 85%. But all the 3 firms qualified, but they were ranked 1, 2, 3.
Without cutting you short, who is looking at the qualifications? You have a board here? Who is WASCO?
Well, yes. The requirement is that there needs to be an evaluation committee. All the proposals would go to the Central Tenders Board. Then it goes to the Caribbean Development Bank for no objection, and then it comes back. And only when this happens, you can progress. So the Caribbean Development Bank is always reviewing everything that is happening. Precisely. And then if they have any issue, you don't progress. So we have done all of this, and we have had a no objection. And so we started the process in accordance with the procurement rules. We started the process of negotiations yesterday with the first ranked firm, because it's a quality-based procurement process. So we started that process yesterday, and we had discussions. The firm is in association with local firms, and that's important because part of what the Caribbean Development Bank wants is make sure that there is always local participation in anything that is going on, and even the external donors too, they actually make that a point. So hopefully we would be in a position to select a firm that would undertake the study for us. But what is involved in the study? We have said that the dam was designed to hold 3 million cubic meters of water. We have also said that there's about 1.5 million cubic meters of silt in the dam now. So the dam is now only holding half of its capacity. We have also said that looking into the future, we may want to look and see whether we can increase the capacity of the dam. We've also said that the problem in the dam, there was a cause for that problem, and the cause is really the catchment area. The catchment area that is deep in the forest, and we have said that it covers an area of 50 square kilometers, which is about 20 square miles. So it means for us now, we need to have an appreciation of what we can do in the upper catchment areas to arrest that problem and to maybe not eliminate it, but to reduce
it. The number.
Then we also have to determine what we must do to the sides of the dam, of the reservoir, because the reservoir is V-shaped. What must we do to the sides to reduce the probability of having slides into and bringing more silt into the reservoir? And then we also know that the reservoir has gone through two major events.
Correct.
Not the reservoir, the dam.
The dam, yes.
So we have to examine the infrastructure. We have to make sure that the infrastructure
is not compromised.
Is not compromised, and that is significant. That is engineering.
Yes.
We must do so. Then very importantly, we must make sure that while we are doing the works in the dam, we can supply the economy of St. Lucia with water. So we must have a water augmentation plan.
Right.
How much water are we going to get from the dam? How much water must we get from other sources to make sure that the north can get 7 million gallons of water going to the north?
To keep your economy going. Yeah.
We must also take into consideration the fact that if we are to desilt, and the combination we don't know yet, but the study is going to advise on what the desilting methodology is going to be, and the combination of activities that we'll have to do for desilting. There is a community that must not be ignored. So the community must be involved in the process. The social and economic situation of the community must be factored into the process. And the environmental concerns must also be factored into the process as well.
It's really complex.
Right. And then if you then get into the technical aspects, then you would see issues of sedimentation. The technical people are going to tell you about that. So I come to the conclusion that we have to be careful as a people, because you hear the commentary, but you hear commentary that are not informed, but commentary that is out of just saying things on the surface. I have gone in and I'm reading.
Yes.
And I'm listening. I'm interacting with the experts.
Yes.
And they're advising. And I need to know, because if I'm to manage, and I must know.
That's right. You're the captain.
Precisely. Yes. So, and I must do the right thing. And I must do it right. Because there is no opportunity to try, and there's no possibility of failure. It must only be success.
It must work.
Right, so it must work. But how do you make it work? You pay attention to the advice that you're getting from those who are technically competent to give you that advice, and you let commentary provide you with intelligence.
Yes.
Guides you and gives you indications as to perhaps areas that maybe you would not have considered, where you can ask a few questions and so on. But at all times, you must be careful, because the technical advice, sound technical advice, is what's going to help you
and carry you forward.
Precisely. And that is extremely important. And you have the external bodies that are financing looking at you. We have had studies, but the studies we have had were not comprehensive enough to have allowed us to undertake a project as massive as that and as complex as it is.
Vince, I have two questions for you. First of all, my second question will be as a result of what's going on, what I think should be done. But I distinctly recall when that dam was being built, I went there several times, because I was very close to 3 engineers on the job. And I felt I'm always very keen on learning new things. And I was told at the time that there were 80 different compositions of soil. 80 different compositions. And they were actually looking for some sort of ingredient, like a special kind of cement or something that they could apply to the sides of the dam to eliminate exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Now, whether that was done, I do not know.
Yes.
But, you know, also, one thing, I don't think you forgot it, but you may have mentioned it today. But when the dam was to be opened, 90 days before, we had something called Debbie, which burst over everything.
That's right.
And I think, unfortunately for St. Lucia, that dam was compromised from day one.
Well, yes, you're very right about that. In the dam, the construction started in 1993.
Yes.
In 1994, we had Debbie.
Correct.
The impoundment of water started in 1995, and the dam was commissioned in 1996. So Debbie came, and that resulted in a relook at everything, because it was like a surprise event. It was an unusual event, and the design perhaps had not taken an extreme event like this into consideration.
Correct.
And it was relooked. But the decision that was made at the time was that nothing significant should have changed. So they went and they continued with the process. But they relooked it. They actually relooked the design, relooked everything, and they had to make an engineering determination.
My second question to you. By nature, I am an optimist. but one should never forget that pessimism has its role to play in life. I am listening so carefully to what you're saying today, and I'm hoping and praying that a lot of what you're aiming for will in fact materialize. But it leads me to think that we should have another group or somebody desperately looking for underground water, preferably up in the northern area. Preferably, I say so, because that's where our economy lies. And I don't know if you can do anything, take into consideration this very important and informative meeting which we have today, that you can revisit that. I don't know what your take.
Well, yes, absolutely. And in fact, I will tell you that the Minister with responsibility for sustainable development is very much, that's Dr. Fletcher.
Yes.
He is very much, and he has been responsible for Professor Dale Morgan,
yes,
who is the person who is actually advising on the groundwater situation. So he's not just looking at, he has been doing it, he's looking at, and I think he's also identified very good potential in somewhere in the Dennery area, the Fondor area, right, around there. And he's looking around, so he's going to tell us where we have groundwater.
Yeah.
And the next stage then would be to go and to identify, to do further tests, to see the recharge rate and all of that and so on. And then, if we can then go and get the water, know how quickly it's going to recharge, we can cap it, figure out how we're going to bring it on our system. And then the engineers and the experts that know it better than me, because I'm just a manager.
Certainly.
You know, so I can speak of the management issues and to have an understanding of what's going on. But then the more technical people are going to come into the picture and then take it forward.
Well, Vince, I want to thank you greatly for the contribution you've made today, the information which you provided, both to me and the public of St. Lucia. And I hope that we have the pleasure of meeting again. But one little favor I'd ask, next time Dr. Morgan is on island, I would love to have him on my show. And if I can't have him on my show, I would like at least have the pleasure of meeting him, because what we're doing today interests me greatly. This is Openmike, and we are about to wrap up. And before we do that, I would just ask Vincent for his final comments on our show today.
Well, I just want to very quickly say that St. Lucians must not believe that because we are getting some rain these days that we are no longer in a drought situation. We are still very much in a drought situation, and I want to appeal to everyone that they should continue to conserve water. I also want to say to St. Lucians that the work with respect to what we need to do on the John Compton Dam is progressing, and I indicated where we are at this stage. And it is our duty to continue to give updates for various programs and various medium so that St. Lucians are kept informed of what we're doing.
Well, Vincent, I want to congratulate you on what you have done, because I know you've gone through a difficult period with the drought. And being a hotelier, and I can speak for ourselves that you have really managed that situation exceptionally well. I want to congratulate you and your team, and evidently it tells me that you have a very good working relationship with the people at Wasco, who have been there for many years, some of whom I know personally, and I want to send my recommendation and my congratulations to them for what they have done, because it is no easy task. On that score, this is Openmike, and we're saying goodbye. Thank you so much, Mr. Hippolyte.